Today's Chicago Bears mailbag is presented by Manscaped. Get the best men grooming products out there at manscaped.com. Use code BEARS20 to get 20% off plus free shipping. Coming up in a second, Bears rumors mailbag. We'll take your questions. Submit them right now. Hashtag Bears or Super Chat. But first, let's talk about Jadeveon Clowney. He remains unsigned in free agency. Just kind of wanted to circle back to him. We've talked about him some, but continue to explore the idea of signing one of the top edge rushers out there at this point in free agency. Now, Clowney, we've talked about this before. His sack production is very hit and miss, and that's been the case throughout his career. 2021, he was great in that department with 9 sacks. Had just 2 last year in 12 games. But take a closer look at his PFF grades from last year. He actually graded out as a pretty decent pass rusher. Overall grade was excellent at almost 76. Run defense, he's always been good there, 74.3. Pass rush, 70. That's above average. Pressures had 29. That's like 2.5 per game about there. So it's not like he doesn't get pressure at all. That's kind of been the story of his career as a pass rusher. Is he gets pretty consistent pressure, but doesn't always come down with the sacks. The bottom line is I know his exit with Cleveland was a little sloppy and messy last year, but if you're comfortable with him in your locker room, there's just simply no doubt that he would help this defense. He's still young enough. He's still productive enough. He's an excellent run defender. He's going to seal that edge at a high clip. And I just think you plug him in here. Him and DeMarcus Walker are your edges. You can kick Walker inside sometimes on passing downs. Clowney can kick inside occasionally as well. I just think it really helps. Rasheem Green returns to more of a reserve role. Dom Robb, Travis Gibson pressures a little bit off of those guys as well. I think adding a guy like Clowney makes a lot of sense. He can be a 3-down defensive lineman. That's one thing he's got that a player like Yannick Ngakoue doesn't. Ngakoue's not a 3-down guy. He's not a great run stopper. Obvious rundowns, he's not going to be on the field. Clowney, though, he can be on the field, whether it's in clear runs defense or pass defense sets. Now, would you sign Jadeveon Clowney? I get it. There's some maybe culture questions there. Type S for sign, P for pass. Didn't mesh in well with the Browns last year, which is why they made a clean break there. But I would still be interested if I was Ryan Poles and the Bears. Shout out to Tito saying, congrats on your healthy child. Appreciate that. PJ's doing well. You think the Bears should just let Mooney go on and draft my guy Marvin Harrison Jr. next year? Him and DJ Moore would be unstoppable. I mean, look, obviously I want to see how this plays out. Does Mooney or Claypool have a bigger year? I think you probably pick one of those guys, but then you could still draft Marvin Harrison if you have a high enough draft pick, whether that's your own, whether that's the Carolina pick. Maybe you package the 2 first-round picks to move up and get him. I think a lot of it depends on a lot of things, right? How does the passing game look this year? You may not need a receiver come draft time next year. So a lot of things to play out, but I'll be honest, I do like the idea of getting Marvin Harrison Jr. on this offense. Frank Sinatra, great music. Should Dante Pettis or Velus Jones be the punt kick returner? If Velus makes the team, I'm very confident he'll be the kick returner. That's one thing he did extremely well last year. Several kickoffs past the 30, 35, 40. Had one that he almost busted for a touchdown. He really is an elite kick returner. That's one thing about Velus Jones that is true. Now, has he gotten rid of the drop issues on punt return? It seemed last year he didn't track the ball that well. At Tennessee, he did it some, but he was more of their kickoff return guy. If you're comfortable with him catching the ball, I'd rather have him on punt return because I think he could be more dynamic than Dante Pettis, but we know Pettis is sure-handed on punts. So we'll see. If they don't trust Velus, that increases Pettis' chances of making this football team. If not, hopefully Velus can hold it down. Appreciate Manscaped for sponsoring today's show. The best men grooming products out there, including the package, the performance package. You get the Lawnmower 4.0, which is going to shave your balls nice and clean there. It's hot as hell. Get that smooth sack going this summer and keep things trimmed up. You could also get the Weed Whacker in this bundle, going to trim your nose and ear hairs. Listen, I'm almost 30 now, and the ear hairs have come in. It's kind of embarrassing, but that's what the Weed Whacker's there for. You get boxers, the crop gel, to keep things nice and smooth downstairs as well. These products also come with a wireless charging station. They're water resistant, so you can Trim where you need to in the shower also. Manscaped, the best men's grooming products on the market. Use code BEARS20 at manscaped.com. Your balls are going to thank you. You can trust me on that one. I've been using Manscaped for about 3 years now, and it's been a game changer for me. Okay, Six and Dragon, when do you think that the Bears will sign an edge rusher? It's the weekly question. I hope today. I hope tomorrow. I hope before camp. I hope before week 1. I will still stand by. I think they will sign one. I just do. You need an edge rusher. Like, you had 20 sacks last year, and you've added DeMarcus Walker and Rasheem Green, like decent players. I think Walker's actually a pretty good player, but you need more. You just do. So I don't know when. I mean, if I said I did, I would just be guessing, but hopefully before training camp. Michael DiBartolo, 10 wins or bust. I think it's in the bag. Also, do you think Poles will just sit tight on defensive end, or does he have to make a move? I kind of just addressed the edge spot. I definitely think they should make a move there. As far as 10 wins or bust, that's too rich to say. Like, if this team goes 8-9, am I going to sit here and be like it was a massive disappointment? They won 3 games last year. Like, if they win 9 games, that's tripling their wins. Which, by the way, I do think it's possible they could get there. But 10 or bust, that's a little rich. Now, if you're asking me a year from now, like next year, you should be thinking this is a 10+ win team. It could be this year, but to say 10 wins or bust, I can't go that far. F. Marsh, should Chicago sign Marcus Peters as insurance for Kyler Gordon and Tyrique Stevenson? I don't hate the idea. Peters came off the torn ACL last year, played okay, didn't play like peak Marcus Peters, and I'm not sure you're going to get that, but I think it's like a CB2-3 type, great backup at worst, a guy who's been around. You could do worse. Now, I don't think you're getting back to 2019-20 where he's picking off 4 or 5 balls, but I think he can give you a pick or 2 if he's a starter. I think he still played at a starting caliber level last year. I'll add another name that gives you a little insurance. What if something goes wrong with Jalen Johnson, like with the contract situation? I don't think that'll happen. I don't think we're going down the Roquan road, but I still think that's a situation worth monitoring. The good news is Tyrique Stevenson had a strong spring. He looked like someone who is ready to start. Kyler Gordon, you hope he takes another step forward, but you can never have enough defensive backs. And I think Marcus Peters is an interesting name to keep an eye on. I'll be curious to see if he signs before training camp or maybe even during training camp if a team deals with an injury, because he probably still thinks he can start, and I wouldn't blame him. I think he can as well. Should the Bears sign Marcus Peters? Type Y for yes and for no. Now, Ryan Poles was in that Chiefs front office when his ending in Kansas City wasn't that pretty, so I'd be curious to see what his thoughts / relationship with Peters is. So keep that in mind as well. Y for yes and for no. Should the Bears sign Marcus Peters? From Keem, hot take number 2, Trevis Gipson will lead the Bears with sacks. That was a bold prediction I had last year, that Gipson would have double-digit sacks because he had 7 sacks in 2021. Fell back to 3 last year. Now, they switched from a 3-4 to a 4-3. I think that impacts non-star players pretty significantly when the whole scheme changes, but he's more built like a 4-3 end. So, maybe a full year in the defense, he's ready to get back to being a higher sack guy. We'll see. I can't rule it out because you don't have a lot of great pass rushers. I mean, outside of DeMarcus Walker, who's the biggest threat to outsack Trevis Gipson? Justin Jones? I think it's very possible that he has more sacks than Justin Jones. A real shake. Who is RB1 midway through the season? Let's just say like week 9. It's a good question. Right now it's Herbert, Foreman, Roschon, I would say. I think it'll be Herbert or Foreman. I was on the camp, maybe Roschon could be that guy, but after the spring, he's clearly RB3, and that's not because he's not going to be a good player. It's just, look, Khalil Herbert's been around. He's been in this offense for a year. He's been on this team for 2 years. They like Deontay Foreman. Like, it's going to take time for the Rook to break through. So if I had to absolutely guess, I would say Khalil Herbert, but I do think all 3 of these guys are going to get opportunities. Stephen Hunt, what do you think we could get for either Mooney or Claypool? Likely it won't sign both, so trade one. It's hard to know who would have higher value right now. I think it would actually be Mooney, because if teams caught whiff that Claypool was on the trade block, he's not going anywhere near a second, because teams would be like, wait a second. They just traded for him. He didn't play that well the second half of last year, and they already want to trade him again. We'll give you like a fifth. They're not trading Claypool right now, number one, but I think if they tried to, the offers would not be good. For Mooney, if the medical checks out, I think you could get a third or fourth for him. Drafted him in the fifth. He has clearly outperformed that, so I think Mooney would get you a little bit more, but I don't have interest in trading either right now. I want to see how these guys compete and how they produce. Now, did you miss our mailbag live on Tuesday? If you're watching live right now, the answer is no. But if you're watching this video later on, subscribe and join us. Hit that sub button. We go live every Tuesday to answer your questions here on these mailbags. So don't miss out. Subscribe and turn on your notifications and join us every Tuesday at 4 Eastern, 3 Central. Oh, Geezer Kieran, appreciate the super. Which UDFA has a chance to stick? You know, coming out of spring ball, there was not a lot of UDFA chatter in mini camps, if I'm being honest, which, quite frankly, that's a good thing. Like last year, a lot of UDFA talk, because what's the difference? The roster's in much better shape. Like, in a perfect world, no UDFA makes it because you've just got better and more talented players. But there's a couple guys that could be in the mix. There's a couple interesting linebackers, but you're deep at that position. There's UDFAs from last year that I think will make it like they did a year ago. Josh Blackwell has a good chance, Jalen Jones, but there's not a UDFA. Tyson Bagent, maybe if he really shows out and he's your QB3, but we'll see on that front. From Larry, do you think Claypool gets cut because of his work ethic? I don't know what the work ethic thing is. I know there was character concerns coming out of Pittsburgh, but he hasn't had bad work ethic this offseason. If anything, it's been the opposite. It's just he has an injury, so he hasn't been able to practice. Now that's frustrating, of course, but he's not going to get cut. Like, they may not bring him back after this year. That's very much a possibility. He's got a lot to prove, man. Like, there's no doubt about it, but I'm willing to see how this season plays out. Ernesto Coronado, do you think that they're working on a Danielle Hunter trade? I would love that, man. I know it's interdivision, but he's a stud. I mean, he gets a ton of pressures, a lot of sacks. He's good against the run. Danielle Hunter is maybe the most underrated edge in the NFL. He is not talked about nearly enough. He was the fastest player to 50 sacks in NFL history. The guy just produces, man. So I don't know if they're working on it, but I'd like to see it happen. We'll see if it does. Give me a follow on Instagram. If you didn't get some of your questions answered, you can ask me over there. I still got to catch up on a few DMs, but I'll be doing that very soon. At HGramNFL, give me a follow at 5,000 IG followers. We will do a Bears Now Instagram Live.